Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Mars Attack's image. Like the title suggests, the little green men have launched a surprise attack on Earth, leaving a surprised populace struggling to survive. The various superheroes fight back as best they can, but the Martian technology seems insurmountable, and they have a sinister plan to deal with the empowered few who stand against them. Issue 3's cover sees a Martian who probably huffed some of that gas they used on the insects, because he's so big, most of the supers literally fit in the palm of his hand. We begin with a real close shot of an angry super patriot.
You want me to what?
I said put on some pants. I know your legs are mechanical, but it still looks creepy seeing you walk around in that mankini. Actually, they want him to lead a unified resistance effort against the Martians, something that wasn't very easy for several big egos to agree on. Patriot insists he quit being a company man, and they should pick someone else, but he's reminded that he's a living legend, the most experienced, and symbolizes what they're fighting for. Gaudy 90s design aesthetics? As someone the country will rally around, the cyborg relents and wants a sit rep. They have a tenuous ally to keep communications open, and there's more military than the enemy thinks, according to Patriot's liaison, Jake, whom Patriot is not at all happy to see.
This job gets worse by the minute. Oh, I just wish I understood why. Why I should care.
So the metallic veteran has a pair of kids, also heroes, whom he didn't know about for a long time, because of this guy Jake. Also, we can assume he's a conniving sleaze by his posture, so I guess that's all we need, huh, folks? Meanwhile, at the enemy's North American headquarters,
in a disturbing development, the Terran Command Center Cheyenne has been breached and found nearly deserted, manned only by a skeleton crew, who we then vaporized into skeletons because, that's kind of our thing.
Turns out the Prez wasn't actually in that bunker last issue. Rather, Cheyenne was a communications relay to throw the Martians off. A clever maneuver, and as a narrative misdirect, I think it works for the most part the more I think about it, so nicely done there.
He's Jimmy Carter with a fox attitude.
Oh.
At first, that aide saying escape was impossible seemed like an outright lie to build tension, but he was likely talking about the people inside the base, so it's believable that he would mention they wouldn't likely survive. Despite the president still being among the living, most military have been crippled, and they expect the planet to surrender soon. One says that would have happened already, if not for the superfolk, and they should have been given more focus. But another says they most definitely are.
We're flooding the internet with comments saying the movies about them are nothing but jokes. Soon the feeble humans will turn against their precious heroes.
In a base somewhere, a hacker named Savant has accessed the Martian mainframe, which is enough of a surprise it makes her associate Spartan look and speak like his brain short-circuited. Just look at his eyes, something ain't right there. It seems to be the aliens' catalog of human conflicts dating back to ancient times, suggesting they've been studying Earth warfare for a while, but sadly she doesn't think it's going to do them much good. Spartan disagrees and takes off. In New York, Cyberforce is defending a hospital camp from encroaching giant insects, drawn to all the blood in the area. Just as they're about to be overwhelmed by a swarm of huge flies, they're destroyed in a great big kersplorch.
Zork? What is Zork? I didn't say Zork.
Thanks to a long-distance assist by Spawn and his mighty boomstick. Shadowhawk approaches and introduces himself, but the grim figure prefers to work alone, telling the other guy to join the heroes on the ground before disappearing.
That's the problem with super guys these days. There's no freaking team spirit anymore. Supergroups don't go out for victory, shawarma, and what's with ice cream having fewer chunks of cookie dough? The destruction of the Golden Gate Bridge is going smoothly until an atmospheric anomaly arrives. It's a Terran aircraft, it's a missile, it's Mighty Man, with powers and abilities that not only wreck multiple saucers in short order, but prove invulnerable to concentrated energy blasts. Super Patriot is getting restless, waiting inside his suburban Missouri home, even if it's considered safe with the attacks so focused elsewhere for now. Jake chimes in with a message from the president. Did you know he's operating out of a 3-bedroom ranch house in Virginia? Poor guy's going through Big Mac withdrawal.
Well, she certainly is beautiful enough to be a princess. Say, you gonna finish these fries?
Is there any chance you could pass along the president's orders to us today, Jake? Maybe if you say pretty please.
This is an important addition to the story. Not only do we need more examples of these two hating each other, it's crucial we understand that Jake is the kind of guy who will waste time acting like a middle school bully when there's an active alien invasion costing human lives by the minute. They're told to knock it off, and Jake says that the remaining military are currently linking up with superheroes.
Let's rock and roll.
No, that won't work. Didn't you see the Tim Burton movie that's canon in this universe? If you're going to weaponize music against them, it has to be yodeling. Come to think of it, Grunge thought this invasion was ripping off that very movie, so I imagine that's something he would suggest. I meant it as a joke, but still, just the suggestion of comparison.
Oh, I made myself sad.
Patriot transmits to all soldiers and supers at the ready for what they've been briefed on off-panel. Simultaneous attacks on key Martian-held locations. There's no backup if they fail, so they'll have to win with brute force and determination.
So if anyone needs to use the bathroom, do it now. And some of you should at least try so you don't have to later.
It's the fight for the entire human race, and though they've done so much already, they'll need to give it everything they have. There's a chance some of them don't make it, but the human race must survive. He closes by wishing them Godspeed and good luck, and thus the attack commences. From California to New York, Freak Force to Witchblade, heroes of all sorts busting Martian heads and wrecking their machines. So what better place for a whole page to prepare you for a vertical 2-page pinup of Savage Dragon? Doesn't interrupt the story at all. But I will say, really nice forced perspective on this outstretched weapon here. In Detroit, the children of Super Patriot argue about the team they were stuck with. Justice saying it was luck of the draw, and that their dad's just busy, and Liberty smacks her brother, thinking they're doomed, having been joined with Killcat, Kid Avenger, and some guy with pointy hair. Perfect time for Killcat to remark on Justice's love life, and asks if his sister is available. This is also very necessary to the story. You see, what's important here is... Liberty would rather date a Martian than this guy, and asks what they do once they infiltrate the base. But the closest they have to a plan is anything they can do to stop them, and they move out. As for the guy in the shades, he's Lab Man, greatest escape artist there is, who's tasked with getting them in and out of the HQ, if he can stop mugging long enough to do it. He tells the others to follow him and do what he does. Yeah, I don't think they have enough gel and wiring to get their hair to do that, bud. After waiting out in the ruins of Chicago, Officer Dragon is transported aboard the shuttle of the alien Vanguard, fashionably late after teleporting troops for Super Patriot. He can't participate in the actual fight because of his orders, but the cop doesn't care, since he can help out by taking him to Mars. This unexpected news quickly reaches Patriot, who was told Dragon wanted to monitor things from orbit, and while he doesn't like being lied to, he figures both guys are capable and there are bigger concerns right now.
The pizza guy is late with my order. Curse the responsibility of leadership.
Things are going so-so. One team has hijacked a saucer and are trying to figure out how it works. They're losing people in D.C., but so are the Martians they outnumber. Chicago remains too entrenched by the enemy, so they could use Mighty Man there. And New York is in need of a 2-story can of Raid. Back in the Motor City, the infiltration team didn't meet any guards outside, so used Labman's brilliant idea of getting in via their waste disposal system. So yes, they are covered in Martian poop.
It was excrement. Did you say it was excellent?
Kid Avenger opens a panel in the floor, enraging Killcat, who starts loudly yelling at him because he could have tripped an alarm.
Quiet, Pinky. Both because we have to be stealthy and because you're an idiot.
Kid A just wanted to show the primary field generator, the power source for the Martians' flying saucers. If the Future Man used his armor's energy pack to create a power surge, he could knock out the ship's shields and take out the base as well. At least theoretically. Killcat orders him to do it, willing to take full responsibility and all credit, so his partner gives the device a little zap. Then says they have 10 seconds. Not sure why Cat says oops, maybe that bubble was meant for Kid, who admits he should have used a timer or remote method so they could have actually escaped, and the issue ends on an enormous explosion. At least they died doing what they loved. being complete morons. The final issue's cover seems to really want to evoke Crisis on Infinite Earths, with Justice holding a presumably dead Liberty as saucers soar above, Washington burns, and sad-looking heroes watch on. Is this homage, let's call it, warranted? Let's see. We pick up in the District of Columbia, where the Wildcats have downed a Martian ship, one of a few recent victories for Earth, but their leader Spartan is still unnerved. Their saucers were nigh invincible when the invasion began, but now they're falling like flies. Voodoo throws out the idea that the enemy has finite resources and expended too much in their first assault, planning on a speedy victory, or that some of their compatriots out west did something with the saucer they commandeered. Even so, Spartan thanks God for whatever threw a monkey wrench in the Martians' technological advantage. Buggy software update. They just don't give programmers the time to iron out all the kinks anymore. Odd for him to seem so grateful when it's stated he looked grim, and his dialogue suggests he's suspicious about it all, like maybe he thinks this is some manner of feint. Back at the crater that used to be much of Detroit, the base is actually unharmed, and the heroes are down one escape artist. Well, actually, he just got himself caught. The Martian's probably noticing that city-rocking kaboom. Killcat tries to attack someone other than his orange partner, but gets shrunk to action figure size, so Justice surrenders and they're all taken prisoner. Meanwhile, two flying saucers hijacked by the good guys are backing up Mighty Man as he hits one target after another, like a hammer wielded by an angry god. That got passed over for a big promotion, and trying to fix the leg on this credenza is the only thing keeping him from using it on that suck-up Ian.
Yeehaw! Nailed that sucker, but good! This is better than Doom! These controls do echo those of a video game, don't they?
That's convenient.
It's noticed that Mighty Man is a lot scarier than usual, more destructive, seeming to want to end this invasion all by himself, and nearly flies through one of the hero-piloted crafts, but alters course just in time. I told you we should have marked these saucers somehow. The debate between the X-Files logo and a Hello Kitty face, while important, was taking more time than they had. Tagging them for Earth would have been a good idea, even if it would risk their elements of surprise, but then again, with a dingus like Grunge operating the weapons, I'm surprised he hasn't shot his friends down already. At Martian High Command, one of the leaders chastises the others for underestimating the heroes as they've inspired a growing rebellion across the globe, and resources the aliens can't afford to waste are being reallocated to the U.S. battleground from other fronts.
Then the time has come to play what the Earthlings would call our trump card.
You mean a poorly photoshopped and obscenely overpriced JPEG of a privileged man-child cosplaying as something he never was, like an astronaut, a cowboy, or a decent human being? No, but it's something about as duplicitous. They're going to announce their offer mentioned last episode. For about an hour, in about 12 languages, on a loop, they've been broadcasting the claim to be peaceful, and their invasion was only because of hostilities initiated by superhumans, and there can be no reconciliation until the planet surrenders all of them to the Martians, at which point they'll end all attacks and return to their own world. In Super Patriot's home, Jake relays that the president has been talking with the other world leaders that can still be contacted.
Hey, Clinton, get back to work!
Like me.
They came to the unanimous decision to stand behind Earth's heroes. Wow, and they held the tension so well until that totally startling and unexpected revelation. While the Prez and his counterparts know better than to believe the enemy's propaganda, Patriot is concerned what everyday citizens think, since they've been affected the most. Somehow, Jake is confident he knows what they're all feeling. Everyone was targeted, not just supers, and witnessed the heroes' efforts to prevent all-out extinction. The battle will be won with everyone working together, powered or not, because the people may be scared, but they're not stupid. Yeah, give it 5 minutes before the Tucker Carlsons of the media sphere decide to just ask questions like, maybe the Martians were right, and create an online cult of disinformation so a select few can monetize fear-mongering. Okay, maybe that was cynical, and don't get me wrong, I can see the sentiment working, but I can't help but remember the last 2 decades of proven liars saying whatever they want to make an easy buck, and all the harm it's been causing. Jake may make a good point, but unfortunately, so does Agent K.
People are smart, they can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
But I digress. The infiltration team is locked up, possibly spared for research, dissection, that kind of thing, and Kid Avenger thinks it'd be cool to be taken to Mars, but Justice is worried about his sister, who was separated from the group. Labman figures she's fine, but he's wrong. We've arrived at why I have a disclaimer for this episode. If you made it this far and for whatever reason don't want to hear about the details, jump to this time to skip it. I may reference it later in the wrap-up, but without specifics. Liberty has been restrained and forced to endure repeated sexual assault as part of a breeding experiment to possibly create a hybrid being. Turns out human reproductive systems are similar enough to Martian. Even though they consider it a form of bestiality, there have been a few volunteers for this, the fourth one arriving and told to proceed. And all Liberty can do is look at the ceiling in horror. I've left out the rather jarring and suggestive images, so needless to say, anyone with PTSD related to sexual assault should avoid this book at all costs, for the sake of their mental health. I don't know Liberty, her powers, or personality beyond having a beef with her dad, but this whole scene felt disgusting and unnecessary to me. We have enough examples of the Martians' depravity, their disregard for humans, their evil, and I get wanting to make this seem more serious, or maybe shock the reader about a real-life crime for some reason. Regardless, I don't think this adds anything to the story. It's just unpleasant and cruel. We go to the Capitol building in DC, where someone named Backlash finds the interior littered with dead Martians, as well as a fellow hero, U.S. Male, spelled M-A-L-E, having died protecting the Bill of Rights. Back in the enemy base, Labman has finally managed to open the cell door, and they seem to find a way out pretty quickly, but of course not without Liberty. They hear her scream, Justice finds the lab, and upon seeing what they're doing, proceeds to literally tear the monsters apart before freeing her. I would probably do the same in that situation, but Libby should have been the one to take her assailants out. Yes, Justice has every right to be angry and absolutely should have avenged his sister. But there are so many stories where a woman is attacked like this and it's someone else that gets vengeance for her. It would have been a nice change of pace, give her agency back. I don't know what impact this has on Liberty going forward, but it can be seen as another example of tearing one character down for someone else's motivation or drive. He finds something to cover her with as Kid Avenger finds a shrink gun and returns Killcat to normal size. And to top it all off, they may have to leave the same way they came in, through the plumbing. Then what was that exit Kid A mentioned before? Elsewhere in the base, the leaders have noticed the humans' resolve has only intensified, and their forces are losing ground in all directions. They can't call local reinforcements because they've dried out their resources to secure this hemisphere, with only the component saucers of the base to work with. Since the loss of shielding makes the ships more vulnerable when together, they initiate separation of their command center, which completes in under an hour. It would have been quicker if someone hadn't left the TV on in their quarters. They phone home for further orders. Since their barter was rejected and the invasion is essentially running on fumes, should they stay and fight, wait for motherships with reinforcements, or withdraw?
Hello, you've reached the planet Mars. Sorry, but we can't come to the phone right now. Please leave your name and a message at the beep.
Hello? Hello? Come on, Benny, pick up. I know you're there.
It's Officer Dragon on the other end, with a whole lot of Martian mincemeat behind him, everything wrecked, and an enemy's dome held casually in his hand. His adventure is detailed in a tie-in miniseries, which we'll get to later this season. You could call this splash page a spoiler, but maybe it's more of a heads up. Assault Command announces the immediate cancellation of the invasion, with orders to ditch unnecessary cargo, release all prisoners to save on resources, hightail it back to Mars as fast as they can, and any stragglers will have to fend for themselves. And lo, there was much rejoicing and high-fiving among the peoples of Earth. Though in Detroit, where the infiltration team was flushed out in the retreat, after an hour, Liberty regains consciousness in her brother's arms, as he tries calming her down, saying the Martians are all gone, and it's over now. Meanwhile, Kid Avenger is contemplating that some kind of iodized backwash from the force field protected the base from an explosion which destroyed the city and its inhabitants. It's a good thing his pointy-cowled partner took full responsibility and then remembered his albums might have been destroyed. Killcat then proceeds to take a club that happens to be nearby and repeatedly bash Kid A over the head with it.
What is this freaking comic?
In Missouri, Super Patriot wonders about why the enemy just up and left, but Emp tells him it doesn't matter as long as they won. Still, there was a heavy cost, from civilians and many heroes losing their lives. Jake says that's war, as a helicopter arrives to take him presumably to D.C. His two associates are civilians again, and they can rest assured the rebuilding process will be handled by pros, whatever that means. As for the Martians, they're barely making it back to their home planet, on dwindling fuel and exhausted life support. One of them, however, is assured they can gather all the data they've obtained, restock, reload, and do away with stealth for their next attack, since Earth is in such disarray. The comic ends on the revelation that their home base and all its various domed facilities have been destroyed. That was Mars Attacks Image, and honestly, I don't think it's very good. Not something I would recommend. I'll admit, I've never been that attached to Image characters, and that was something of a hurdle in and of itself. Unless someone was reading a bunch of their titles already, I don't see how someone is supposed to be particularly invested if a character who may have been a parody, like U.S. Mail, bites the dust. The story doesn't seem to concern itself with how some heroes might feel about being exposed in all this. From my experience, Sarah Pazzini was trying to keep the Witchblade a secret, and Gen 13 was in hiding from people out to capture them. Yeah, surprise invasion, world at risk, bigger problems and all that. But not a moment is spent on what it's like for them, which might have actually helped make some kind of connection or interest to an unfamiliar reader. The Martians don't have that problem. Their motivation is laid out pretty well, and their horrific actions speak for themselves. But why, after helping out in Chicago and somehow making it to St. Louis without an issue, is Super Patriot on edge about being the most logical person to lead the charge, and why should we care about his hatred of Jake? Yeah, people are being hunted and killed by a technologically advanced armada, and maybe he's forced to stay in his house so he's not targeted by the enemy, but oh no, you have to take a bigger role in the fight for an entire planet, and you work with someone you don't like.
How terrible for you.
Unlike most crossovers we've looked at, these events actually remain canon with the Image series that followed. Can't say this made me interested in finding out how everyone dealt with the aftermath, though. The story itself is tonally inconsistent, mostly aiming to be a serious, action-heavy drama, but some of its comedic moments feel really out of place. Maybe they wanted to lighten the things up a bit more. Killcat and Kid Adventure being like if Abbott and Costello were edgy 90s superheroes, but the amusement they provided was minimal, especially after what happened to Libby, making the attempt at humor there feel even less appropriate. And I certainly hope the rather data Martian remark wasn't meant to be some kind of connected joke, given what she experienced, because that'd make it all the sicker. Additionally, it oftentimes feels less focused than it should be. I get it, this involves a lot of heroes, so you can't give everyone the spotlight to explain their motivations or feelings on what's going on. Yet there are several moments where it seems they jump from one thing to the next, stuff just happening, the pacing feeling a little jumbled, and dialogue to bring up, oh yeah, there was this thing, because the creators didn't see fit to show us, I guess. We don't see a lot of the invasion outside the US, because I guess every superhero lives here? And I didn't know the flying saucers had force fields making them invulnerable to begin with, because they were pretty easily destroyed by Freefall and Mighty Man, even if most of that involved them being thrown against each other. Gotta wonder, what does that say about their effectiveness? Saucer shields, only vulnerable to saucer shields. Martian marketing genius at work. What was up with peasants in China thinking Martians were vengeful gods? Wouldn't they just assume they were, aliens like everyone else? Is this another example of a writer writing about a culture they're not well versed on, or am I missing something? There's also stuff that never gets followed up on, like Spartans seeming to think that these space creeps, having learned millennia of human warfare, could help them in the fight. That just goes nowhere. Killcat and Kid A start brawling outside the enemy fortress, apparently get discovered, and just show up when everyone rallies for the big fight. And they just kind of mention offhand at the end how two teams of heroes died, the Pact and Youngblood. I mean, what? There was one panel in the first issue of Youngblood's base being destroyed, but one could assume some escaped or weren't there at the time, but their deaths feel like such an afterthought and dialogue intended to reflect on Earth's casualties. Seeing a dude whose name suggests he's a gag hero dying to protect the foundational laws of the country provided more reverence than that. Honestly, so much felt like it was missing or glossed over. I thought there were more tie-in stories, but from what I searched, the only one they have is Mars Attacks Savage Dragon. If ongoings had connected stories, I would think the editor's captions would point that out. The lie that supers instigated the invasion and letting them die would spare the Earth isn't a bad idea, nor is basing it on the planet's less than sterling history. But why did the Martians think this would work without anything to back that up? Like Jake said, lots of non-powered folks were attacked, military, governments, and big cities were given primary focus. What was this barter hinged on? It ended up being dismissed so quickly as to seem like it really didn't matter at all. The Martians were more technologically advanced than us, but apparently we are light years ahead of them in terms of effectual propaganda. Yay! The art is mostly fine. My biggest criticism is that some of the line work seemed a bit overly detailed. Musculature and facial features making the characters look really weird, and one panel made it appear as if Super Patriot's eye is outlined right above his goggles underneath his mask. Bonus artwork sometimes interrupted the flow of the story, which isn't the biggest deal, but at least the last issue waited until after the conclusion to feature Savage Dragon, the poster.
Spaceballs the breakfast cereal! Spaceballs the flamethrower! Bet kids love this one.
It did lean into cheesecake more than once, which, considering that several heroines' costumes were already designed with what are basically thongs, isn't all that surprising, especially for the 90s. But it is one aspect of many, like all the blood, graphic violence, and Liberty's assault, that show it's not meant for young readers. So yeah, I did not enjoy this book very much, partly because of my detachment from the core characters, but much of it stems from problems with the story cohesion and conflicting tones of what the story tries to be. I would give this a pass unless you're really well versed in image continuity in this era and don't mind the more distasteful Martian cruelty. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.